And recording is in progress.
I didn't want to forget.
All right. So some of those skills that I didn't learn until later was kind of like how projects are managed, like with like software. So like Jira and Confluence. So I'll show you guys if I can see how to share here. Oh, I can't share. Could I get some sharing access maybe? He's working on it. I think there was just a question I could potentially answer there.
It
How long?
says
So it's 6 weeks is kind of like the time that they approximately allocate, and the time commitment itself is what you can contribute. Like, I mean, obviously, like most people are busy, most people are working full time. So, you know, if you
can share,
contribute,
Clint.
okay, perfect. You know, whatever you can. Obviously, the holidays are really busy, so like our team kind of like slowed down quite a bit over the holidays, which is fine, and we picked it back up. And you know, you guys will see kind of what we have to share. Let's see. Okay. So we picked our technologies. So like the technologies that Jasmine and Scott were interested in learning was React. Jasmine had some experience. Scott was like just learning React, pretty new to it. So like his exposure in this is kind of like making components and learning about stuff like Flexbox and Grid, and just getting more comfortable and just like making websites. Mike on the back end was really interested in Go, so we have a Golang back end. So we, I think we did like a PostgreSQL database, and you know, Go for the APIs and stuff. So I'll show you guys kind of what that looks like in a second. So we had kind of a rough project plan where we started out, you know, with designs, writing some documentation like developer setup. So this is Confluence. If you guys work in a real job, like a lot of real jobs, you're going to see Confluence. You might see some other, you know, similar platforms, but this is a pretty popular one with Jira for the actual project management, and Confluence for the documentation. And that keeps everybody on the same page. You can tag people, do comments and stuff. It's really nice. So we decided that, you know, since we're doing a 6-week project, we're kind of breaking up the tasks and trying to work on things like design, database and model design, the API design, what's the API going to look like, and then some security stuff. And then in the next 2 weeks, we wanted to try and do all the stuff static and work on the back end. And then later on, we were hoping to kind of put everything together with the whole full stack to make calls with the front end, fill in dynamic data, stuff like that. So we're not quite there. We didn't quite finish and get as far as we wanted to, but you guys will see what we did. As far as the data model, we have like users kind of at the top, and some of those users are going to be customers, you know, for like an ordering system. And then some of them would be kind of like admins for companies and restaurants. So the people that are actually going to be like using the CMS to change the data, updating, you know, all that stuff that I was talking about as far as menus and restaurant data. And then we have, you know, various relationships, like a company can have multiple restaurants, a restaurant can have multiple menus, each menu is going to have multiple menu items. Restaurants can have testimonials and testimonial images and so on. So we kind of created this data model, and then Mike was able to build all that out with database tables and stuff in Postgres, and we worked together on an API design. So, you know, it's kind of basic CRUD, you know, that if you've made any sort of backend, you'd see before, you know, with the, you know, timestamps here and IDs and stuff. But basically, it's just CRUD on, you know, each of these routes that, you know, represent, you know, if I want to change the restaurant menu, then, you know, I have access to, you know, get the you know, items from a particular restaurant menu, or update an item or add an item and stuff, you know, get, post, update, delete, and so on. So we documented this pretty well in Confluence with essentially these demo data models or whatever. And Scott and Jasmine worked on Figma to create, I need to make this a little smaller, to work on some designs. So they created some of the designs in Figma to kind of go off of. So we use that to kind of work on our, front end from as like having like a starting point. Right. So I want to show you guys what we actually did here. So this is like a desktop version. And then we also did a mobile version. So one of the interesting things that Scott wanted to learn is grid. So the interesting thing about the layout is, with Flexbox, you have like one-dimensional, essentially like linear layouts where, like you guys have seen, if you have like 50 users, you can kind of make a row that kind of like goes to the next line and goes to the next line, goes to the next line. But the cool thing about grid, if you haven't used it, is you're allowed to make layouts that can change very dynamically in both the X and the Y axis. So Scott was able to place various React components kind of like where he wanted to, even though the mobile layout was very linear. So he wasn't forced to kind of like stick to, he wasn't constrained by the fact that we wanted to do a mobile first kind of design. So, so this is our landing page for a restaurant here. And we have a menu here that slides out that we can go to different pages. So right now, today, we're going to be showing the home page, which is where we're just looking at the landing page. And then the menu, where we're actually like getting data and generating our menus from data. So right now it's dummy data, but obviously like in the future it'd be dynamic data that you would control from the CMS dashboard. So I'm going to show you guys what the menu looks like on desktop. So Scott worked a lot on the landing page. Jasmine worked a lot on the menu here. We have a carousel here at the top. And then here we have our menus that we're getting from, these are generated from dynamic data. So if the menu data changes, this dynamically creates menus and dynamically creates these items here. So these are all, React components, nested in React components. And if we want to filter, we can click like drinks here. We can just filter, one menu or the other. And if we want to click off of that, we can see everything all over again. And here is the mobile view for the menu. Scott, Jasmine, did you want to add anything, say anything?
I contributed the name of the team, so you're welcome.
I guess I can go. My name is Jasmine, and I'm excited to be here, part of this community. I'm from the Rockwall area, and just a little bit about me. I started to learn how to code about 10 months ago, and I completed a part-time boot camp while I was working full-time from home and watching my daughter. My daughter was not in daycare. So I'm still looking for my first role, but I'm also like sharpening my skills. Since I realized like my time horizon is different than somebody else, just because I felt like, I have other commitments, or during my boot camp, I had other commitments like work and watching my daughter. But I do want to say, I'm excited to hear that other women want to be in tech, because that's one of the things, like during the boot camp, it was just me and like 2 other women. It was not a lot of women. So I'm pretty excited to hear that women want to transition into tech. And also, working on this, it was really fun. It was challenging. I feel like I was in a very talented team, Mike, Scott, Clint. Clint is an amazing teacher and leader. he's also really patient, and that's something that I enjoyed working with everybody. What I did learn was TypeScript. And for the people that are new to just software in general, TypeScript is like bumper guards for JavaScript. I got a better understanding of React, components, props, and the Git workflow as well. I learned Jira as well. So it was an awesome learning experience for me. Overall, it was really great. I'm very grateful to get this opportunity to be in a team and keep learning.
Yeah, everybody on the team worked really hard. So congrats to everybody else
Yeah.
on the team.
Hey, thanks for presenting, guys. It looks really nice. I think I could speak for everybody when I say that. But let's go ahead and move on to the other team. Scott, if you don't mind presenting them, because I don't want to get too far behind on our agenda. So great job, Breakfast Club.
Our other team is called Fuh-git-about-it, and I believe the team, the head person on that team is Rob. If he wants to go ahead and take the.
Yeah, let me go ahead and share. We'll see how long I last with kids, but so if someone has to take over, take over. But our team, we did a auto commerce like car parts e-commerce site. So for a lot of our teammates, we had some limited experience with React coming in, and so some of the things that were really beneficial for a lot of our people were just learning how to structure components, and we introduced layout components. Introduced Next.js, which some of our teammates never used before. So getting to see the power of the meta framework was a big deal. We did some stuff with some reactor forms, so there was a lot of new technology for the people on our team. And I think our team did just a great job, and I saw a lot of growth for sure as we went on. So I'm going to move through the pages real quickly. I know we're trying to get to the panel, and we wanted to talk briefly about the fCC site. But I want to get through the pages and give everyone on the team a chance to talk about the role, and then we can move to the next portion. So this was a shop. This was built. Chris did a lot of work on this. So this looks great. I know Chris, I believe, you did a lot of work on the other parts, the login and the cart. So a lot of these pages were built by him. So the plan originally was to have a full stack app with a Python backend. We didn't quite get enough time at the didn't quite have enough time to wire up everything to our backend. But Christy worked on our Python backend. She'll speak to that in a moment. We have our cart page, so we have some more card components here. Reusable components is what we learned about here. You can see that it just maps over some cards, and there's a login page. We did some stuff with React Form there as well. One of the part I want to call out was I don't know if Daniel's on the call still or not, but Daniel came to the team a little bit later. Daniel's in the middle of doing the boot camp. He hadn't even started React when he joined our team, and he built our footer for us, which is great to see that he got a React component built out for us. So I figure Chris or Daniel, do you all want to talk about the front end first? Anyone, either of you all here? If not, or if you're just trying to get to your mic, we also have Christy was here just a moment ago. Christy, if you want to talk about your experience with Django, what you learned, because we switched actually from Flask to Django in the middle of it. So I think she learned quite a few cool things about Django.
Yeah, I can share that if you want. Let me see. Oh, okay. I think if you quit sharing, I can show it. It's not a whole lot, but it was really cool to learn Django and just get some exposure to that. Let's see. Or if you want, do you want to pull it up, Rob, or do you want to?
Which part?
Oh, you have to stop sharing for me to share.
Oh, let me stop sharing. Yeah, you got it. Yep.
I was like, I mean, you can pull it up if you want. Let's see. All right, can everyone see that? Good, okay. So we did not get our front end talking to our back end. So that's why you can see that my styling is way, way worse. I just threw a CSS in there to make sure that the Django was pulling it correctly. Obviously it's not pretty, but I did learn some cool stuff. So, you know, this is just like my listing of items. So no styling, it just was like, hey, throw a green background in there. It's kind of a little hard to look at, but I did put like, you know, a couple of vehicles in here. I worked in the auto industry before, so that's kind of like my thing. Not near as much detail. Let's see, I did put, so this is it. So made it limit the amount of text. I don't know why this isn't showing up in the description, but when you click on it, but just that way you didn't have like a really long description. So we did have authentication as well. Let me move, oh, there we go. Get that out of the way. So that was the listing of items. So Django is really cool just because you could log in, have the whole admin section. So we could have users. Okay, apparently I'm not logged in as admin right now. And then you could have, let me just go back. I honestly don't remember my admin login. Oops. Wow. So. But it was really cool just to be able to change around the data on the back end. It kicked me out. I had to look up my password again. You could just mess around with the data on the back end, which was really nice. And then also you could add or delete users on the back end. So the admin could, you know, just delete a user or, you know, change stuff back there, which was cool. I did have a sign up page as well. Let me show you that real quick. So the really awesome thing that I learned with Django this time that I hadn't ever worked with before was just, you know, like how easy it was to do password authentication and login. So like you could create a new user. So just do test 4. And if I didn't do matching passwords or if they were too short, it was really awesome that it tells me it didn't match. So that was really not too difficult to implement. So that was super cool. And then you could just go ahead and create an account there as well, which I did not do. And then we had a login page. So that's about where I left off. I didn't get a whole lot farther than that. But you could go in here, log in, and then as you saw here, like if you're not, so you could authenticate different users as admin status. It was like super status or something in there. And if you didn't have the admin status, then right now I'm logged in as test 3. So I cannot view the admin backend. So, but yeah, that was about how that went. So it was really cool. And then apologies for the bright green.
In the bright green, so I think it's pretty cool. You know, it's all right. Good. All right.
Hey, we got one more quick thing. I'm going to pass it back to Rob to introduce our new website.
I'll share my screen here in just a moment. So basically, anyways, basically the whole deal with our website is we started a new, what we're trying to do with Free Code Camp Dallas is we're trying to make it, we're trying to provide value to people at all their stages in their learning until they get their jobs, including after they get their jobs, right? So in the past, it's always been playing to the lowest common denominator, which ended up being HTML, CSS. Cohorts has allowed us to get people to that more intermediate level where they're building projects and building actually some full stack projects and thinking in terms of full stack. The whole purpose of the website was to add value to Free Code Camp Dallas by having a website, but also to give people an opportunity to work on more rigorous code that has more code review. We're going to be more feature focused. So that's what the purpose of our site is so far. So far, it's mostly been me working on it. But the whole goal is to get some people who've been through cohorts a couple times to come on board and to work on the Remix app. So we chose Remix for our website, which is a kind of new hyped JavaScript React meta framework. The backend's completely on Cloudflare. We use Supabase for our database. It's TypeScript and React. It's really neat. And I hope that if you've done a couple cohorts or if you feel like your skills are up to it, that you come and participate and become a core contributor so that we can mentor you more one-on-one and have more focused works on specific features. So I'm going to share real briefly, and I'm going to try to make this less than a minute long so now we have our panel. But this is our plan for the website. This is going to be the dashboard that I'm hoping people can work on. So we're hoping to add some utilities here. But the main site that you've probably seen is this one. It's mostly static. Maybe get start page, a blog. If you'd like to write and get your name out there for companies to search your name and see blogs associated with you, we encourage you to contribute to this. Anyone can write. We have our cohorts. We have a sign up page here that we made for the cohorts. This has been done through the website, so you can contribute to things like this. So again, if you feel like you're getting close to being job ready, or you feel like you've been through the cohorts a couple times and would like maybe a different challenge that's more focused, this is going to be the project for you. And again, our repo's up on GitHub. I'll post this in the channel, and I will pass it off to our panelists.
Hey, thanks, Robert. Appreciate you. As I said, that was phenomenal. And before I hop in, Jonathan, do you want to say anything at all, or anyone else have anything to say?
I was just going to present you. You got this, man.
There you
It's
go.
all you. You got the floor.
All right. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. All right. Sorry, we said co-host. I was like, oh yeah, that's me. So yeah. Well, first off, let me go ahead and just take a step back before we even hop into this and say, everyone, phenomenal job on just presenting the projects that you all like, took time, like evenings and everything just to build out. I think it was like everything that I saw today was great. It was genuinely great. And to be able to build something from the ground up, from like absolutely nothing, to have a UX, or to have a whole like a whole roadmap, design plan, and being able to execute with also like a lot of like other individuals as well, while still being a as I said, coming in just being a junior engineer, or even just learning how to code to become a junior engineer is phenomenal in my opinion. So like, I mean, I don't have a hat, but hats off to you, seriously. So phenomenal job, everyone. Now, with that being said, we're going to now hop into the, so we're going to segue and just hop into our panel this evening. So again, thank you for everyone being here and just coming out. And today we have four amazing individuals who honestly, I've known a lot of them. I've known a few for like a while, and the other few or other couple and everything like that I've known. They're just absolutely phenomenal individuals, and I just brought together these four individuals, and I'm like, wow, like you all have to hear what they have to say. So first off, I wanted to introduce our panelists. First one being Jules Calella. Okay, like I don't want to butcher this. He's currently a software engineer at Microsoft. Does a lot of phenomenal things in regards to working like partially with like a lot of our, I want to say like hardware, I want to say firmware, but I know more along the lines of like it's like a nice little medium that you have there with what you've been doing out here at Microsoft. So but he does a lot of work in C++. Known him for about a year, and this is all around. As you get as we get through this panel, you'll get to know him a bit more and just know more amazing things about him. Next up, we have Ashely Tan. And Ashely Tan is a software engineer too out at Square. She's been at Square for actually this month right here marks her 1 year. So she's been at Square for a year as of this month. Been doing a lot of great things out there. And I remember when I first heard her say like, oh yeah, I'm at Square. I'm like, oh my gosh, like I'm actually using some of your like the stuff that you built out, like I'm actually using. So yeah. So it's, as I said, Ashely Tan, if you want to wave, Ashely. There you go. Okay. And Jules, if you want to wave too. Awesome. And then next up, we have Jonathan Sullivan, who is a software engineer at Google. I've known Jonathan since, gosh, like actually like my early tech jobs, actually, where him and I were actually teaching kids like, K through 8, like programming at a small startup that we were at together, or a small company that we're at. So Jonathan, as I said, has done a lot of phenomenal work out there at Google. I like tell you? I don't know if I can say publicly what you do at Google or.
Very, very generally.
Yeah. So he works on the, do I say recommendation engine? I guess would that be the?
So really what it is we try to predict what the users want to do based on different contexts and just try to make their experience better across a lot of different platforms.
Yes. So I guess prediction. So prediction analytics, I guess would be the be proper. What say that? All right. I think so. Okay.
Oh, so you're gonna get the fan in trouble.
And so I know I don't want to get him in trouble. Look, everyone likes their jobs here. I'm trying to be. And so last but not least, we also have Luis Osta. He is currently a software engineer at MongoDB. Also runs his own digital agency called Valencia. I was going to say Valenciaga, but Valencia agency.
If I were in Balenciaga, man, I live in a nicer apartment.
Yeah. So Luis, actually, I've known him since he was back at University of Texas at Dallas. He's done a lot of great, and I actually know him primarily because of the blockchain community. So out in Dallas. So, but yeah, as I said, I can go in and give a whole history with about every panelist, but let's go and hop in. And as I said, everyone, these are your panel. These are your panelists. So that's it. Jules, Ashely, Jonathan, Luis, it is an absolute pleasure to all have you here. So now I wanted to sort of ease into this, but I'm really just going to hop in because I think we all want answers. Don't worry, no need to freak out. But the first question that I want to ask you all, this is just hopping into here. What are 3 tips you can give us to stand out during the interview process? So as developers coming into their, interviewing for developer jobs, if you all individually, unmute, I'll pick popcorn it, whatever you want. I'd like to know what are 3 tips you can give us to stand out or us developers out as we're interviewing. And so anyone want to start?
I go first.
All right, cool.
So I would say the first tip would be learning data structure and algorithms back and forth. Actually suggest getting this book right here, Cracking the Coding Interview, and it kind of just goes through linearly just different data structures and common algorithms used on those data structures. And a lot of the problems you're going to see in coding interviews are just dressed up versions of those problems. The second thing I would say is master whiteboarding techniques. Even if you're just doing it in the mirror, or maybe you have some friends that you study with, ask each other questions, especially maybe off that book. But I would say make sure you clarify the question. You should always have a question for your interviewer about what they've just asked you, and they want to see that you, before you just hop in and start wasting company resources, that you actually understand the problem. Make sure you construct test examples and especially corner case examples, and let them know that, hey, this is the expected input. Here's my expected output. Do your brainstorming / pseudocoding, even if it's not pseudocode, even if you're just saying, hey, step 1 is to iterate through this list. Step 2 is to find any values matching this in this dictionary. Just kind of make sure you list those things out before. Then next, you want to write your code, and make sure when you actually finish writing your code, you go line by line through the test case, just like the interpreter or compiler would do. And I would say the last thing to remember during your interview, you can probably do the whole question correct with the best solution ever found, but if you're silent the whole time, you're not going to get hired. Communicate the whole process, everything you're thinking. Even if at first you can only come up with like a brute force algorithm, that's better than writing in silence. A lot of employers want to see your thought process and how you approach the problem. So, being able to be vocal during that process is hugely important.
Thank you. And next up, Ashely, would you like to go next?
Yeah, sure. I would love to add on to some of Jonathan's points. They were really, really great points. And for example, I think something that really sticks out to me in good interviewees is not only the communication skills, but also like they said, is the like the planning and the design, I think that always sticks out to me. Is like, you don't want to just jump into the problem, because it can really waste your own time as well. Like when you start with some solution and then you realize like this was not a good approach. And you can also like showcase your communication skills in that sense as well, by, you know, talking through your initial thought process on the question. And then, you know, don't forget that like, if this is a pair programming interview, and your interviewer is an engineer, they want you to ask questions, like clarifying questions, but they also want to hear that you like want feedback on your work as well. So I think it's like, just like, don't forget that your interviewer isn't just there to like observe you, but like you can ask them questions and you can ask them for their thoughts on your approach as well. And even what they think about like how you're going to use your time in the interview. So you can always ask like, you know, I have an idea for the brute force approach. I would do this, this, and this, but like, do you want me to code that out, or do you want to like talk through, you know, like a more efficient approach? And they can tell you how to do that, and they probably would really appreciate as well, because I would say like in Square's interview process, we're always looking for what we call signal, or like, which is like the good, I guess like the good things about the candidate, right? We don't really look for bad signal, we just look for good signal the whole time. So when you don't use your time efficiently, we're trying to get as much good signal as we can out of you, but we're trying to steer you towards giving us good signal. So don't be afraid to ask your interviewer questions, and to converse with them about the problem, because they just want to help you.
Thank you. Next, Jules. Oh, look, you already unmuted.
Yeah. Well, I mean, both Jonathan and Ashely came up with really good points. I was going to actually mention a few of those about the clarifying questions. And they really they really want to see what you're thinking. But remember, these are people that you're going to be working with every single day. So show your personality, show that you can get along with them, show that you can feel comfortable asking these questions, and that you can discuss how you're going to be writing this code, how you're going to approach problems, because they really want to see that. Also, bring up, I mean, we've just talking about whiteboard questions here, but bring up a lot of stuff that you're really comfortable with. Like I know someone that got a job once because she mentioned she used some program in some internship, and that's honestly all they were really happy about that. But it wouldn't have come up if she just answered all the questions. Like just as they were asking her questions, if she just answered them just like simple yes or no's or exactly what they wanted, that information would never come out. Same thing with me. I've mentioned small projects that I've worked on, and I kind of showed my interests and other skills that I've developed, and they're looking for that kind of stuff because they want to see a new perspective to the problems that they're working on. I feel that could be very useful. That's only two things, but I think Jonathan actually covered some really good stuff there.
Oh, that's amazing. And then last but not least, Luis. Thank you so much, Jules.
I have a tough act to follow, so I want to take a step back and hopefully provide something that has, because everyone's already covered all of the really most actionable stuff. There are a few kinds of interviews. There is the take-home one that's been increasing in popularity, but still not the most popular one. There's the data structure and algorithm ones that Jonathan mentioned at the top. There is the system design interviews, which are more common for senior roles and above, but are something to keep in mind. And then there is the behavioral ones. There are other ones in between there, but those I would say are the most common 4 types of interview. Across the board, I think there are a few things to keep in mind before you start really hammering at the algorithm questions, hammering at like the system design, trying to think through the specific sort of things you need to study, which is you should be, insofar as it is possible, get extremely comfortable in tense, sort of conflict-oriented situations. A lot of people are not able to handle conflict in any kind of healthy way. Things even as basic as like calling the support agent about an issue that you're having with, or negotiating a salary raise, those sorts of things. While obviously like the interviewer wants you to succeed, it isn't as easy of a conversation as like talking to your friend. So building a capability of being able to establish and maintain rapport with somebody who you just met and be able to work with them through a specific problem is incredibly valuable. And furthermore, the thing that you're actually trying to do in an interview is build a story about yourself that you're selling through not just the problem that you're solving, how you approach it, how you communicate how you approach it. Because the things you highlight, the things you ignore, the things you mention as important, they frame the sort of story you're telling about yourself. So for instance, if I am solving I just recently had an interview, very distributed systems, right? I highlighted specific key moments that work that I did previously on certain projects, how those kinds of problems that I solved previously informed my technical decision in this specific problem. And even if you don't have previous experience, you can take that similar approach. Essentially, while you're solving the problem, while you're talking through it, continually being able to frame a strong and cohesive narrative about the kind of candidate you are, the kind of employee that you will be, and the kind of value you'll be able to provide for the company. Right? That's not something that can be really like learned by a book. That's something that I would recommend. That's something you have to practice, right? Talking to your friends, trying to put yourself out there. That's something that's valuable for interviewing, for getting clients or freelance work, for pushing your projects and initiatives while you're in the company, right? So that's sort of the only thing that I could mention that wasn't already covered by these lovely folks.
So just to clarify that question, number one, communicate, right? Two, don't immediately jump into coding, right? So don't just like say, all right, cool, I'm gonna start writing, right? Three, ask questions. Four, once you're finished and as you're asking questions, as you write it, you're walking through code. Another one as well, bring up things just beyond the questions, like in your interview. In other words, like, hey, not just like strictly it being only just the problem and then just your interviewer, like bring up things outside of that. Again, as you said, Jules, from bringing up like, oh, I worked on this technology, like at this internship, or, hey, I've used this technology before, being able to highlight more on that. To also being comfortable with conflict. And that's actually something I think we could even take just even outside the interview process in general too. That's very important in the professional and also personal just place in general. And then, last but not least, build a story about yourself. So yeah, as I said, that is like absolutely phenomenal. And now that we've gone through, we've figured out ways for ourselves to, giving us tips on ways that we can stand out during the interview process. Jumping to our next question, what are 3 expectations I should have for a company when transitioning into my first developer role? I think what's really interesting is that, like, when I ask this question, a lot of people think that it's the company trying to hire me. You also, in my opinion, I think that you're also trying to hire the company. You're trying to. It's a mutual relationship. So with that being stated, can y'all give 3 expectations? As us developers, like what we should have for a company when transitioning into our first role. Ooh, I know this is a hard one. Who wants to go?
I'll go first so I can get the easy ones out before I get stuck having to make a philosophical point at the end. So I think the first there are 2 ways you can look at it about this, positively and negatively. I think negatively, the first thing you should always be on the lookout for is trying to get a good sense of like the company runway, product vision, and like sort of structural advantages and disadvantages. So you want to know the kinds of things that are going to cause problems for you and your team. For instance, if they view a certain kind of product section as a cost center, it might be harder to get investment for that, which means you have to take consideration in that when you're working in projects about what the deadlines you can expect will be and how you'll have to sort of frame your pitches for certain initiatives in a way that's going to be beneficial. It's going to actually get the job done. Or if the company's going in a really expansionary period, that may mean that if you structure yourself well and if you talk to your manager well, you might be able to like rise very quickly above the ranks and you would otherwise be able to. So that's sort of like the sort of first 2 things, like try to keep track of cultural and like financial aspects of the company that will either be cause for you to leave or cause for you to start making plans about how you can sort of take advantage of the situation in order to like rise further ahead. And I would say the last thing to expect is like you should expect to suck for 6 months. Just expect that. Just don't feel bad. Just embrace the shame, and eventually you will probably feel good.
can I piggyback on that? So I know when I first started working at Google, I was primarily writing code in Python, but I transitioned to a code base that was mostly C++. And what is a pointer? What is a reference? What are all these weird concepts, namespaces? And so I can definitely say when one thing you should expect from a company is growth. You should be a better engineer. They should prepare. Search result. Sorry. You should go come out a better engineer than you go in. So I know just at Google in general, there's a lot of new technologies and frameworks and even languages that aren't widely aren't used outside the company. So there's always opportunities to learn and things like that. I would also say you should expect your manager to be invested in your growth also. They shouldn't be holding you back. That's like a huge sign. They should be incentivized to get you to the next level of engineer and help you progress your career. And I would say something that makes kind of my life extremely easy is the company should probably have very well documented processes and uh, and um, and documentation about like their different frameworks and all the kind of proprietary things that you can't just find on Stack Overflow. That to me is kind of like my Bible at work. We have an internal search engine where we can find all these internal documents and that other engineers have wrote. And I think that is a huge benefit at my job.
Ashely.
Yeah. I think I misunderstood your question the first time I read it. So if these are expectations I should have for the company, and I think what as opposed to just like my first job. But one thing I think you should expect from the company, or at least be looking out for, is in your job to or even before you take the job, is look at what you think about the leadership of the company. And something you'll see, I guess, like once you actually get into the company is to kind of evaluate like how the leadership responds to their employees, how they choose and plan their like high level visions and stuff. And if you agree with those things, because I think it's totally okay to not agree with those things. And a lot of times people don't, because, there's a lot of people. And I think it's good to see how the leadership just responds to that, right? When their employees don't like something that they're doing, is how do they either justify or defend their point, or how do they say we're going to make a compromise, or we want to shift our perspective in response to that. So I think that's something I didn't really look out for before my first job, but I would say as you gain experience within the industry, it's really cool to look at that, because I think that will really factor into your satisfaction at the company.
A lot of stuff's already been covered, but I guess it's like the way you framed the question at the beginning. It's like they're hiring you, but you're also getting something. You're not just getting a job from them. You are developing you're developing more as a coder or whatever type of job it is that you have. So take that opportunity to learn as much as you can. Take advantage of those resources, because whatever company you end up working for, it's like Jonathan said. There's going to be like a bunch of development. There's a bunch of libraries. There's a bunch of learning resources there to help you become a better person, and that actually may help you even like progress and develop within that company, become more experienced, and get you new roles and stuff like that. Yeah, I don't know what else to put on besides that.
No, as I said,
How does it feel, Jules? How does it feel?
I got the next one. Let's start at the next one.
All right, there you go. So you can start the next one. So as I said, so from 3 expectations, you should have for a company when transitioning to your first developer role. Like first off, like keeping track of the cultural and financial part of the company. You should expect to suck. right? So you should expect growth. You should come out a better engineer than you came in. The company should also have good documentation. I'm sorry, y'all. Yeah, I'm working on it now, but
Also,
no.
the company should expect you to suck. If your manager does not expects you to,
Yeah.
I mean, unless you're getting hired as a staff engineer in an area
Yeah.
you already have mastered,
Yeah.
a good engineering manager knows that there's going to be some growing pains at the first several months.
Yeah, I've had contract work in the times where I'm like, I was a junior engineer and they actually wanted me to do senior engineering work. And I'm like, yo, you know, communicating is like, hey, I can't do this, but yet they're wanting that. So be
But
very
could also-
aware of that.
Yeah, but also be careful. Like, don't get imposter syndrome. Don't know
It's
that
true.
because you suck or because you're not good at it yet that you shouldn't contribute. Always try to contribute because you'll get that feedback. You'll get why your ideas were good or why they weren't good, and then it'll help you develop even faster.
That is a
Embrace
great
the shame. Embrace the shame.
and just become a better engineer. I like that. All right. And which leads me to my next question here for the general questions before we dive into the individual ones. I'm actually going to just leave this down to just having one because I know 3 each. That's a whole lot. That's like what? That's like 12 points. I can do math sometimes. All right. I'm an engineer. If you can all give us one expectation you recommend for us developers to do to set ourselves up for success in our first developer role. So we've been hired and, we've gotten our first job. It's like our first day or even first week. What is one thing we can do to set ourselves up for success?
I guess I'll start. Don't be afraid to ask your coworkers questions and show interest in their work. You can learn a lot just from doing that, and that will really help you become a better developer. And expect them to do the same for you. Expect them to ask questions of you, and if you can actually answer the kind of questions that they're asking you, and you can actually explain the kind of work you're doing, it'll show that you truly understand. You have a good fundamental understanding of what you're doing, and that'll definitely help you improve.
I guess I go next. I would say one kind of thing that I know will make you stand out is volunteer. If you're maybe your team's doing a new project or a new initiative and you're like, hey, I know a little bit about building models, like say, hey, I want to work on that, and not just kind of wait around to get assigned to doing a little grunt work. You still have to do a little grunt work, but at least you're showing initiative that, hey, I kind of want to show my skills and what I know.
I want to say one thing sort of to extend what Jonathan just said, and don't take this too far, but it's far easier it's very easy to ask for forgiveness, and most of the time you're not going to get caught. So my recommendation, just be a little nosy. Just be a little nosy about getting, I think, a good understanding about the organization, the organizational politics, structure, what the processes are like. Just getting a relatively deep lay of the land, I think, is going to be very helpful to you. Understanding how things can actually get done in the company, right? And what to expect at each sort of stage of a project, promotion, performance review. I think that's going to be, and also just see what you can get access to. Just if you can find all the financial records and see them, do that. If you can find the performance reviews of everyone in the company, do that. If you have access to it, as far as I'm concerned, you're allowed to see them. So just a little nosy. And then just apologize if you get caught and somebody gets angry at you. You could just say you didn't know.
But Ashely?
Well, it's like, I mean, to be fair, if they didn't want you to see it, they should have put protections on it. It's not your fault. My number one tip to set yourself up for success at any company or any job, if in any new job, is, and I tell everyone this, is that to set up one-on-ones with everyone on your team, especially if you're remote. I think it helps a lot with imposter syndrome. You get to know the people on your team. just have like a, like a 20 or 30-minute social, make your little script of questions if you think it'll be awkward. But I think it really helps you kickstart your comfort level with your team members. And it also helps you like inch into like when you need to ask questions and you need help and stuff. It really helps break that barrier, breaks the ice. So if your manager doesn't do that for you, you should really do that yourself. And then after that, just take initiative to socialize with others, whether you're like setting up one-on-ones randomly or you join, Slack channels for interests or Slack channels that are for one-on-ones so that you can meet random people. Building connections for in the networking sense or throughout the company is not a bad thing. It's never going to hurt you. But you might just make like, coworker friends or lifelong friends do that as well. So it just helps you feel a lot more comfortable at the company.
I know I'm supposed to have one suggestion, but can I piggyback on what Ashley said?
Yeah, go ahead. All right.
I would say also at larger companies, they also have diversity groups and interest groups that you can be a part of, and that could be a great way to jump into the community. And even some have opportunities to kind of give back to the local area. So.
What's it called? ERDs are employee resource groups or something like that. I think they're like called in like different, yeah. So yeah, that's actually really important. That's actually, I'm a part of like, I think 2 or 3 out at Microsoft. So yeah, that's a really good one. Thank you.
Me too.
Now to dive into the individual questions. All right. I know, let's see here. I want to make sure like everyone else can also ask questions too. So I'm going to go ahead and just ask one question per interviewer. And I'm going to start off with Luis. Well, hello, Luis. So
I just encouraged everyone here to commit crimes allegedly. So I'm excited to see what I'll say next.
So he's not an HR professional. Now,
I do not provide legal advice. I never said any of this. I'm gonna ask Jonathan to delete the recording.
No, but no. So essentially, let me go and dive into this real quick, okay? So Luis, we know that you graduated from University of Texas at Dallas in 2020, but during that time, you held multiple developer roles and like internships. I was like looking at your LinkedIn. Wow, awesome. Now, just out of curiosity, like for a lot of the individuals who are like, who are currently like, studying, who are current students, right? Because I know Free Code Camp isn't just only self-taught developers. What actions can university students take to position themselves better for their first developer role and or internship?
By the way, my LinkedIn doesn't have all the internships I did. But yeah, no, during school, I think I did 4 internships. And that was sort of around the time I started my company. I think I did 3 major clients around that time. So that's all. That's what Austin's talking about. Most of the small companies, Mongo is the biggest place I interned, really. I guess Deloitte was big. Anyways, so I'm sure these other lovely people will give you good advice, but I only give bad advice. School sucks. You can mostly ignore it. Just get good enough grades where you will not get filtered out of the application tracking system. So companies have these things called ATSs that will filter out based on a variety of candidates, based on a variety of things. One of the things that they'll filter out is GPA and other things. I have friends who studied and did a bunch of I'm not that guy. I did A's and B's, sometimes less than that, but yeah, on average, A's and B's, just to not have to get filtered out the ATS. The problem with school, I love theory, I love learning, but the problem with school is that it goes extremely slow and has no real kind of rigor. So like I sort of came into, before I started university, with 2 goals in mind. I needed to make a list of technologies to like learn and really master. And I had a list of organizations that I wanted to like really go deep on. So like I was originally going to go into the AI Society, but like, I ended up figuring out there's this blockchain thing, never heard of it. And then I learned more about it and just followed that route, and then, it led me to a variety of things. I think the key is to not be, like opportunities will land in your hand. You will not really know them, but don't hold on too tightly on like preconceived notions of what the path needs to look like and how exactly you're going to get there. You want to have obviously a strategy, but you want to be able to pivot on the spot as the situation on the ground changes. And you want to be, because like I did not come from like a big family, and I came from very, very, very humble origins. But the things that my parents instilled in me, and like what I really knew is like, if you have a like pristine reputation that you can establish and follow through on, and if you're able to have a good like sort of sense of what opportunities are available to you, and always sort of be flexible as to what that could mean and where you can engage, you have no idea how much reliability will get you. Like reliability and ability to sit in conflict, as I mentioned previously, and be able to just exist in tense situations is what's going to get you far. And just be able to maneuver tense situations, so that like sometimes somebody will do something that somebody will fuck up, basically. Somebody will mess up. And a lot of people's instincts will be either to throw that person under the bus or like avoid the situation entirely. But if you can find a way of resolving the conflict, helping the person get, like the person who messed up, helping them get in a better track, helping the project finish, you will not just be known as somebody who can deliver. You'll also be known as somebody who's like an actual good person who will help other people who are like resolve conflicts and be able to like sort of push things along. You'll have like develop a reputation as like somebody who fixes problems and makes things go away for other people, right? So I think those things, it's just like always be engaging in different kinds of opportunities and always be open to what that could mean. Like be open to success and be open to that could mean whatever it means, right? Because like I explored IoT, I explored blockchain, I explored AI. And I just followed, because ultimately problems are problems, and like whatever language you use, the framework you learn, that's not interesting or useful. The thing that's more useful is building enough tools to be able to solve problems and understanding very deeply how to solve problems. Like I don't really know. Like I think I learned React. I'm pretty good at React development, but I once I got good enough at React, I just focused on building up other tool sets that I could use in different ways, because I was good enough at React that I could sort of count that on my tool set and develop other things that I could always have something being pushed forward. I don't know if that made sense. I hope it did. Basically, establish a portfolio of tools, establish a good sort of inner piece, and always be open to different things that could be made available to you, and always be quick to engage. If you always be quick to engage, people really underestimate the value of being necessarily first out of gate, but being able to react quickly to situations. That's it.
Thank you, Louis. I appreciate that. Yes. And then as for those really great points that you put there. And wow, like that is actually, I just want to say firsthand or whatnot. Yes, by the way, you were very reliable. For those who don't know, I actually shoot a lot of stuff Louis's way because of the history of just being reliable. I mean, he's more reliable than like the refrigerator that I have over there that just has never broken down yet. And it's more reliable than Amazon Web Services. But
that's a low bar. That's a very low bar.
Well, see, yeah, you want to edit that out. All right. No, but next up we have Ashely. And Ashely, now for you've been at Square for about a year now. And also, side note for everyone, I recently saw that you received a promotion as well from software engineer 1 to software engineer 2, like 10 months into your role. So I just want to say, like, first off, like, congratulations, because that is an amazing feat to just achieve within like less than a year, within your job. Now, with that being stated, hopefully you can speak to this, and I think you can pretty well. During your first year as a full-time software engineer, what were the expectations placed upon you from your manager, and how did you meet them?
Thanks, guys, for the congrats. Yeah, so I think my manager was trying to find a balance between knowing that I was going to suck in the first 6 months plus, but also I was going back to Square as returning from an internship. So I did have some familiarity with the organization I was working in and with the code base to some degree. But yeah, there's going to be like a huge learning curve like coming back to it. So the expectations he put on me was like somewhere in between. There was like knowing that I'm still a junior engineer. I'm still it's still my first job and all those things, but also being able to give me a little more responsibility. So he actually put me on like a cross team project, like as my first project, where I was basically the only person on my team working on this project. And it was just like a really big feature. So that was the expectation. And then the way that I met that expectation was mostly through communication. And I think for anyone in any level of their engineering job, for the most part, success and failure is not really based on like, did I just perform and like, did I like push out this feature or something like that? It's more so like, can I communicate my timeline? Can I tell them if I need to pivot? Can I tell them if I need more time, like ahead of time? So it was mostly through communication. So when I could go to my manager and I could say, I know I estimated 2 weeks on this work, but I actually need 3 weeks. And he would say, okay, that's good to know. And then he would just put that in to the planning for the next few sprints. So I think it is much more about, can you communicate things ahead of time and not just let them pass by? He said the worst thing that can happen is like, I don't remember what they called it, but it was like a silent miss or something like that, which is like you say it's going to be done by a certain day, and then that day comes and you don't say anything and it just passes by. So really the best you can do is just tell them ahead of time if you need more time, and there's no shame in doing that. So it's really just being able to communicate like what your work is going to take from you, and you're really setting the expectation.
Thank you. That's amazing. Actually, yeah, as I said, like communication is like key, and you'd be very surprised. Like the most, like being able to communicate very well sets you up for so much success. Like, thank you for that, Ashely. And then as for switching over to Jonathan, right? So I saw that you've earned like several nano degrees, from Udacity, and you've also graduated with a math degree from like UNT. So you've had like a plethora of different, things that you've done over the years, right? I think what UNT was 2013, Udacity nano degrees were like 2016 and so on. Aside from this, right, and all the other things that you've taken over the years too, right? Just, teaching yourself programming, what programs were like most helpful for you? And, if I'm currently going through, and like to follow up with that, right? If I'm like currently going through a curriculum, for example, let's say Free Code Camp, should I switch between other curriculums or curricula? I think would be the proper terminology for that. So, yeah.
So as you noted, I've done a lot of Udacity nano degrees, and that's basically kind of due to my style. Even before I took these nano degrees, I stay on YouTube. I'm probably driving their revenue with how many ads I watch and videos I watch on the platform. And so when I found a method of teaching that was basically built on YouTube videos, it really kind of caught me. But some people might enjoy reading better, or interactive books or things like that. So I would say it really depends on what your particular style of learning is. Some people, and I even do this sometimes. I think of a project or see a project online and just let Google and Stack Overflow be my teacher, right? And so I would say it really kind of depends on what your preference is. And should you switch curricula, I think is a question of, do you enjoy what you're doing? I've, as Austin mentioned, I was a teacher, probably been in education longer than I've actually been in tech. And one thing that I've noticed and that research shows is that people learn when they're having fun. Like yeah, you can memorize some stuff and rack your brain around it, but to really have a deep, authentic learning experience, it really comes when you're having fun. So if you are maybe doing front end development, but you saw maybe a friend doing games and you're like, oh, that's really cool. I didn't know you could incorporate physics and coding. Go ahead and switch to something you actually like to do. And if you're gonna make a career out of it, you should like it, because you're gonna spend 40 to 60 hours a week doing what you're looking at. So that's my 2 cents.
At least, as I said, when you're going through when programming and whatnot, things that were helpful for you is honestly finding projects and finding things that I mean, you liked, right? So if you like video games, you know, do some video game development, or something along those lines. Right? Just building out things in the areas that you do enjoy, right? And yeah, awesome, thank you. And then let's see here. And then, as I said, I know we're getting a little bit short on time, but I actually wanted to go ahead and ask Jules a lovely question. I'm going to switch over to him real quick. And for Jules, like in your 2 years at Microsoft, you've been at Microsoft for a little over, it's like a little over 2 years, right?
Just over, yeah.
Just over. Happy 2.325 years. I don't know.
2.1.
2.1 years at Microsoft. Congratulations. You've done a plethora of work from working with like hardware and like not touching code to actually then like, you know, to eventually like actually working more on like more like C++ in your day-to-day, like your daily like, you know, work inside Microsoft to make everyone's lives, including mine, easier. Thank you very much. Appreciate you. All right. What can us aspiring developers do to position ourselves at a company internally, right, to transition into the engineering / IT department? So I know it's a little bit of a rough switch or whatnot, considering you've already been in engineering. For a lot of individuals, if they're not looking out to go and try to apply elsewhere, right? If they're learning software development, and let's say if their company has an engineering or IT department, what are some tips you can give to have those individuals be able to effectively transfer internally?
Well, I didn't actually transfer. I still have the same position. I just have a different workload. So in order to do that, first I had to show interest in it, and I had to show interest to people in like my team, so that they were aware that I wanted this, and have a good relationship with your manager. I think that's really important because they're the one that can put you in a position to they can put you in the position to actually start doing this kind of work. So I mentioned that I wanted to do more coding. And then once the opportunity came up that, you know, there was some work that needed to be done, I mentioned that, and I was given the opportunity to try. So definitely show interest and mention it to your manager, because a good manager will be very supportive and they'll try to help you however they can. If you are trying to transfer to a different position, like within the company, networking is always so important. I mean, this is key for any company you go to. Learn the different types of teams, learn the different types of work, show interest, ask questions, as I mentioned before. And you could work your way into that way. Also, if your code, you can always ask to be part of code reviews too. As code, before it goes into the repo or whatever it's going to happen, there are code reviews where people comment, they look over it, make sure everything is actually accurate. If you have the skills to do that, ask if you can be part of that and review people's code, let them know that, show off your skills, show that you know what you're doing, and then that you may eventually get the opportunity to start writing your own code from there.
I think there's also, isn't there like don't we have something like shadowing or something like that too? Where you can like shadow a role. Is that something that is that pretty common as well too?
You could do that. You could. I was told to, like, I was just included on email chains from some of my coworkers, like just like follow the kind of work that they're doing. They said just like have them CC you on some emails and just see what the actual process is like for this kind of job, and that was very, very helpful, for sure.
All right. And now these are like the closing questions, and I know a lot of y'all probably want to ask questions as well too. So I'm gonna make this a little bit quick, and y'all can like totally all the panelists, you can all unmute for a moment, okay? It's gonna be fun. All right. So closing questions. This is an interesting one. I love to ask this one. Should I be concerned about not having a degree in the tech field? Yes or no?
It helps, but it's not necessary.
Okay.
I think it depends heavily on the kind of company that you're applying to. So at least from my understanding, sadly, MongoDB requires some degree. I don't know if it requires computer science.
Depends on the
degree.
company and your skill set.
Mm-hmm.
If you don't have a degree that's relevant or like super applicable, I would recommend, I think startups and agencies are generally a lot more flexible, and they're a lot more welcoming of like boot camp graduates, right? Like and so I think starting with that might be a good way in.
Yeah, it seems difficult because, as Luis mentioned earlier, there is like this filtering of your resumes, looks for GPA and stuff like that, and they may filter you out for that reason. You may be able to prove yourself though if you do get an interview. So once you're that far in, you can probably prove yourself, but it's just hard getting past that first part. It may actually even help. Oops, microphone. Depending on the company, again, just showing your personality, trying to network, even if they're knowing someone in the company already that can help you get in, help you get that interview, could definitely help.
Get it
I-
back. Oh, sorry, what were you
can I
saying?
add one
Sorry. No, no. Yeah, go ahead, continue.
And I would say, just from my personal experience, I built a lot of projects, and so I would say definitely tell the company, hey, I may not have took this course, but I can make you money. I can build the things that you want done.
Nice.
Yeah, you can. Jonathan, you mentioned that you took like a lot of those nano degrees too. I mean, you could display all this stuff. There's tons of those nano degrees and these little LinkedIn learnings and stuff, and you can just display a bunch of those on these profiles and these social media, specifically LinkedIn, and that can help you too. It can show that, oh, I actually have taken tests and I can apply this stuff. I actually do know what I'm doing. It may not be
Yeah,
a
I think
degree,
even
but it's
community college will get past the filters. Basically, if you don't have, if you just have to figure out a way of getting past the first pass of the ATS filter. That's really what you want to do. Because like once you're talking to a human being, they can see that you've got potential. Like they can see with their human eyes.
I think that yeah, like they said, it definitely depends on the company, but I think also something that can help a lot is really emphasizing your projects. If you have a lot of those, that can definitely like show that you can apply yourself. A lot of times that they're like, even if they do care about the degree, they're able to overlook that if you can show the projects you've done. So
But actually, I know historically speaking, you know, being able to like still like, hey, you know what, I can do this type of work or whatnot, and do it effectively as well too. I think, you know, in my opinion, has definitely landed me because, you know, I'm currently, I think the best thing I have is a high school degree here, you know, with some college, no associates, and being able to show like, hey, I can actually do this work. Here's like actual work that I've done in the past that shows that, whether it be from small, medium, and even large projects, has really done a phenomenal
Yeah,
job.
no
in helping.
serious engineer.
Yeah.
I mean, I guess I won't speak for anyone else here. I don't care about degrees because I've met many people. I've met people from Stanford and Harvard. Some of the dumbest people I've met in my entire life. So like, don't feel bad. I've met them in person. I can confirm it.
Also makes you feel any better, the people that do open source work, a lot of them, or a lot of people that are on open source, the tools that you build out, a lot of the tools that, you know, even people, you know, a lot of people use on a day-to-day, actually, a lot of those individuals don't have degrees. Now, I mean, if you have the ability to get one, in my opinion, I'm sort of going to jump in real quick. If you have the ability to get one and it's on the table, get one, right? Hands down. Like, don't turn away the ability to acquire, you know, education. But if you're in a position that really doesn't suit you in order for you to take on a whole lot of debt or whatnot, and you need to find alternatives, then yeah.
I know a few people who did okay in tech without college degrees. Have you heard of this guy, Bill Gates? Or Steve Jobs?
Little known guy.
He does pretty well.
Yeah. So as and I think, well, let's see another one. Let's see. So I'm gonna actually like ask this one last before we actually get into Q&A. What can I do outside of work to improve my knowledge as a developer? So if anyone take that one.
So I went to school for electrical engineering. I didn't study computer engineering or software engineering. But I showed a lot of interest in it. I did buy books. I did watch a lot of YouTube videos, but I think the most important thing was just finding interest in projects and just making a bunch of small, half-working projects to develop your skills until you get to the point where you can actually make something useful, something like a full-fledged, whatever type of coding project, whether it's websites or it's application or something like that. Just constantly do projects and eventually start making full-fledged applications or websites, whatever it is you're going for. And that is probably the most useful thing you can do. In my opinion, obviously.
I'm just going to agree with Jules and say, make sure you're having fun when you're doing the project.
yeah, it's hard to say anything better than just doing projects. I would say secondary to that, maybe like keeping up with the news about like the technologies and stuff. I think it can help to have like context around like what new technologies are coming out, what's getting updated, and why is this better than this in this context. That can really like come in handy when you're like working on projects at work, because you might be able to suggest like one thing over another. So that's like kind of secondary to doing projects, I suppose.
Actually, yeah. Sorry, go ahead, Lisa.
I was going to say, just an extension, a little bit of extension, as Jules said. Oftentimes you'll be working on a project and you'll be like, why doesn't this dependency work? And then you'll go to GitHub and you'll see an issue for that pre-existing thing. Consider seeing if you can actually sort of pin down in the code where the issue is coming from and think about fixing it. Like once you've gotten a flow into a project, I think contributing to open source is difficult. Like it's definitely, because you have to, it's basically onboarding yourself into a project. But that, I think that can be a nice challenge and a nice sort of practice for sort of real, the kind of collaboration you would also have to experience in sort of business projects.
Yeah, getting things to work is great, but you will find they break, and knowing how to fix a broken application is that's like half the job. But yeah, I wanted to also build off what Ashely said. There's a lot of things you don't know that you don't know. Like I went into school wanting to do one thing, and then I had a class that I was forced to take, and it turns out, oh, I actually love digital stuff. And then as I did digital stuff, I love the coding aspect. Never something I never even thought of. So broaden your understanding of what's out there, and you may find something you really love. And if, as mentioned earlier, if you really love something, you can be really good at it.
So, as I said, those are like all the questions that I have. I actually want to go ahead and hop in to see if anyone in the, as I said, anyone out here, any of the participants here who joined this, if you all have any questions at all. But yes, like, thank you, like panelists. Thank you, Ashely, Jules, Jonathan, and Luis for answering all of these questions. So now we're going to open Q&A to everyone else. Anyone have any questions they'd like to ask?
Hey, actually, Austin, let me throw these links in here really quick before people start leaving.
Okay.
All right, so there they are again. Our YouTube link will have this video in it. Hopefully tomorrow. I don't know, whenever I get to it. And then it'll probably be tomorrow. We have our Discord invitation link. We have our next meetup, which is about Remix. And then we have our LinkedIn group and our Facebook group, and then also our new Free Code Camp Dallas website. So anyway, check those out. I've already seen a bunch of people jump into the Discord like during the meet, so that's cool. Yeah, and sign up for the cohorts.
Andrew, to answer your question, by the way, the most common bug, too many to count, really. I mean, all race conditions. I hate when debugging in Windows. But I think the latter question you asked is, I think, something I can be more helpful with. Thoroughness. A good QA team, like you sort of somebody who's sort of helping you with sort of investigating an issue or testing things. I think documenting and thoroughness is incredibly valuable in any kind of QA work, because like reproducing issues and being able to like reverse engineer them requires a lot of information.
Also, do you mind if I address the question Susan asked earlier?
Oh, yeah, let me see. Sure. What was the question? I totally lost it.
She was asking about kind of breaking in tech as a woman, you know, kind of breaking that glass ceiling. I actually used to work for a company called Hackbright Academy in San Francisco, and there's I know similar company in New York called the Grace Harper School. Grace Harper School. But I know there are boot camps where they are only women, and there's these huge communities of women who support each other and help each other, you know, get jobs or just learn tech. Like I've seen it firsthand with my own eyes, and I would say, you know, some of the most amazing engineers and students I had, you know, were women, and some without even having degrees. So.
Does that answer it, Susan, and whatnot? No? I hope so.
More detail, like maybe what type of jobs you need to be looking into first before you go into development? Do you need to have like any kind of background saying that you, like I said previously, I did test engineering, and I also did help desk support. So would those things be valuable assets going into software development?
Yeah, actually, can I answer that one? I know I'm supposed to. Oh, you know what? Let me let the panelists also. Oh, I answered this. My apologies. Y'all want to go and answer that? I'm a little bit too eager here. Ashely.
I think you could probably answer that better than me.
Okay. I'll say the test engineer. That's actually very important. First off, I'm going to let you know that a lot of engineers don't test their code. So I think the fact of the matter is being able to write tests and be effective within writing tests, and even be able to prove that while building out your code, even as a junior engineer, in my opinion, that honestly says a whole lot, because even a lot of senior engineers that I've known in the past and I've worked with in the past still struggle with writing actual test cases. So if you're a junior engineer who can write tests, in my opinion, I mean, that's like a gold mine right there.
I think
yeah.
Also, if you're a QA engineer, if you're sort of QA tester / engineer right now, I think a great the kind of Trojan horse, if you want to get into full engineering, I think volunteering and sort of planning out at how to automate and build more testing infrastructure. A lot of companies and a lot of engineers don't want to do that, but that's incredibly high value. The ROI on good testing infrastructure and good automating testing is absolutely massive. So I think if you can make a sort of a plan that you can sort of pitch to your manager about how you can sort of help out creating these sort of automated testing and helping build out more testing infrastructure that's going to allow your engineers to be more productive, I think that's going to be a nice Trojan horse, actionable Trojan horse, about how you can get to do more and more engineering work, right? So and that's sort of kind of, I don't know if that's what Jules did, but I kind of think about you stay in the same role, but you slowly shift the kind of workload that you have until you're basically a software engineer, and then you can ask for a title shift, or you can go to another company where you have that sort of the actual full experience that you want.
And I would even say, me kind of on a related topic, I was in education, and as Austin stated earlier, I went from teaching mathematics to actually teaching programming, and then I transitioned into being a software engineer. So kind of sprung off my background to where I'm at.
I see there's a question. Oh, I was going to say, I see there's a question in the chat.
Yeah. There's a question for you, not Paul, sorry. There's a question for you, Jules, from Paul. And so when we're going to read this out to you, it says, one question to Jules. I think maybe you would be able to provide some insight. I'm currently in manufacturing, which is a totally different climate compared to tech. One of my concerns is that I am already into 7 years of my career. How was switching into a new environment for you?
So before I got the job at Microsoft, I was working at a startup that kind of came out from my school, doing low-level kind of firmware on designing electronics. It didn't get too far because we were understaffed and underexperienced. So I went to a new company, searching for a job as a software engineer. I didn't switch within, but if you have the skills, as we mentioned before, just studying on your own, doing nano degrees and taking the learnings, it depends. If you want to switch to a new company, you can apply for it. You will be starting from scratch. It's like we mentioned before, you have that, like Louis said, you will maybe suck for the first 6 months or something, but you always have a company. If you really like the company and they were really eager to help you grow, it's just the next phase of your career. If you're trying to do something within the company, if there's software engineering jobs within, or changing, whatever role you're going to change into within that company, I'd just say probably take the advice that we mentioned, network, show the skills, show the interest that you have, and then see if you can move within the company from there.
I think treating it like you're moving to a different country is going to be valuable for you psychologically. It's going to be very lonely because you're not going to have the connections in the industry. It's going to be very sad because even if the new place is better, you're leaving up the career that you sort of invested in is always going to be a little bit sad. And it's going to be extremely confusing and foreign to you. And that's okay. Just treat it like you're moving to a completely different country and starting from scratch.
I had a couple of questions, if that's okay.
Ask away.
All right, so I have a degree in chemical engineering, and I've decided that I'm really into software engineering, but I'm completely new to coding. And I was wondering what my best course of action would be from here. So like, should I go to a boot camp? Should I try self-taught? And what exactly should I try to learn?
Is there a specific company that you might want to go to? Because it helps to know the company you're going for and what they're looking for. If they're open to taking people that don't have the degree or people that are doing nano degrees or something like that, I would say look there first. Like look at that opportunity there. But in terms of learning the skills, it's Jonathan mentioned earlier, it depends how you learn. Sometimes having like a paid course that's like a nice curriculum that's structured is perfect for you, something that makes you take tests and takes assignments. Other times just go on YouTube and Stack Overflow and just creating your own projects and just developing your skills there.
Code camp. No. Okay, let's not look that. Okay, I'm not trying to.
And I have I noticed you said you were a chemical engineer, so I'm assuming maybe you took like vector calculus, linear algebra, probability, things like that.
Yeah, so I actually have a double major in mathematics, so I know all of that, yeah.
Okay, so I would say definitely look into AI, machine learning, like neural networks, because one thing I know chemical engineering has to do more with like the processes more so than chemistry, but there are a lot of like AI systems like that pharmaceutical companies use to say, hey, you know, a lot of it's geometry, right? And so instead of, you know, having to run chemical trials on 1,000 different, you know, potential medicines, we can use a AI or a neural network to narrow that down to 100, and which saves a lot of money. So there are a lot of, I would say, applications where you could use your background with chemistry and mathematics and AI systems, especially if you have a great understanding of mathematics.
Okay.
And then you like to do it.
Yeah, I
Are
love
you-
mathematics, not so much chemistry.
Is there a specific kind of software that you want to do more of? Like, is like software development stuff?
You know, in the past, I work with Excel a lot just as a hobby for like data analysis and stuff. And in the past, I've kind of wanted to make my own websites for various purposes, just as like a hobby kind of thing. I haven't really looked into. Go ahead.
No, go ahead, please.
I was gonna say, so Jules brought up like what company I want to work for and everything. I'm very, very new to looking into any of this, so I don't really have an idea of that right now. Obviously, working for like a huge company, like most of you do, would be great, but I mean, I'm not completely sure right now.
So what I would do is I would try out sort of, I guess, roughly, I would try out like 30% try out the major kinds of software, them being front-end, back-end, mobile, and like data science or data analytics. Not a super hard in, just do enough of it to get a taste of the kind of work that you'd be doing, and then you can decide which one makes sense for you to go deeper. If you're going in the web dev world, I would recommend learn React and TypeScript, although I guess Austin's gonna hound me for that because he's a Vue guy, but learn the React and TypeScript, and then either on the back end, Node.js and Python. Free Code Camp is good. I've also heard Juno, they have online courses now. They're a fairly well-respected boot camp. I would hesitate to pay for a boot camp, especially if it's very expensive. You should be very careful about that, because there's a lot of boot camps that are extremely mediocre, if not actively bad. So I would much strongly recommend that you try to like join a community, make some friends that can sort of help you learn as you go along. You know, there's obviously free code camp. Can't see dots. He's big in the web dev world. He has a Discord that there's a bunch of people learning in that. But yeah, so I would say we recommend you like 30% learn, a little bit about each major site, just enough for you to get to know which one you're going to be the happiest and most productive in, and then go hard in that.
I'll go ahead and finish up and just say, yeah.
Yeah, to be specific, I guess if you want the stack, like React for front end, Python or Node.js for the back end. For data analytics, R is faster, but Python is more flexible. You can also do Python for backend and data science, you know, that kind of stuff.
Yeah, me. I try to at least say, you know, a lot of people try to go to boot camps for like, oh yeah, I'm gonna go there and I'm gonna, you know, I'll be disciplined, right? You know, it'll force me to be disciplined. I recommend, in my opinion, take the self-taught developer route. In my opinion, if you know time is all right, is everything okay? I recommend taking the self-taught developer route. It's just my opinion. And like go through that. So for example, Free Code Camp has 300 hours of scientific computing with Python. Like there's a whole cert on that, right? And you get to build out projects, you're learning a whole lot. But my recommendation is build out the discipline yourself first, and at least, you know, try to have like a, you know, whether you dedicate an hour in the evening and or 2 hours in the evening, whatever it is, and go through that, or go through something like that, you know, at least have that level of consistency and discipline, you know, just go self-taught, and you'd be very surprised how far you can actually make it.
If you think that a bootcamp is going to give you
without,
discipline, just keep in mind the number of people that pay for an expensive gym membership and never attend. Just keep that in mind.
Exactly, yeah. Like don't be that is true. I was once that person
myself, obviously.
at one point. Okay, I was once that person. But you know, with that being said, y'all, inexpensive gym memberships, no. But you know, we're gonna go ahead and wrap this up. And as I said, you know, I know it's like a little bit over time. But I just want to go and wrap this up. I want to say thank you for everyone who like attended this evening. Thank you for all of our panelists for, you know, just volunteering your time to answer all of these questions. And, you know, on behalf of just, you know, the Free Code Camp Dallas chapter and like this whole community, we genuinely appreciate you. So here's my virtual applause on video. As I said, thank you so much, everyone. Now, I guess for the rest of this, Jonathan, I guess, yeah, as I said, I guess we can stop the recording. And as I said, if you want